Hi, everyone. This is Esateys.
And this is Rafael. And hi, E.
Hi.
And welcome back to Relationships Done Different, where we will absolutely amaze you with new things that you are just going to be amazed to hear. And tonight's subject is, am I selfish in my relationship?
Well, that is a really powerful title. And I have a lot to say about selfish. But before I do, I want to share something kind of on a personal level that's happening that I think is pretty darn fun. Many of you know that we're in the Vancouver, Washington, Portland, Oregon area, and we do a meetup every Tuesday evening at 6:15 at Peace Health. At least that's where it is right now. That's a hospital educational center. And we have three of them that all funnel into the same night. One
Three
is
meetups. You said
three meetups,
yeah.
but it all comes on Tuesday night at 6:15. You all come to the same room because the principles are the same. And one is called Relationships 911. Another one is called I Choose Happy. And the other is Awakening in the 21st Century. And we've been doing this for about a year. And in fact, last night we celebrated our 50th meetup. And it was really fun. We had balloons and cookies and nectarines. And it was just, and people went around the room and shared what they've gotten out of this in the last year for those that have been coming for however long. And it was just so heartwarming to see what has happened here. There's a community of people that have come together that are going on hikes together. We do potlucks about once a month here at our home, and a real conscious community of amazing people have come together. And my heart is just so happy about that. And for those of you that are local, please come and see us and be part of this, because when you get like-minded people, people that are like you that are listening right now, you're into self-development, you're into being more joyful and more connected in yourself and in your relationships and pretty much everywhere else in your life, or you wouldn't be listening to this. Therefore, you will find that it will become amazingly expansive for you to reach out and become a part of a group that holds a high vibration or high attitude, whatever your word is. For those of you that don't live close, we encourage you to find a meetup or places where you can be in a community of like-minded people, and that is going to help you stay more clear. You also can tune into us because we're looking at doing a online program, and if you have an interest in that, let me know, because that's something that's happening. Also, gosh, I'm turning into a commercial here, but I just feel like I want to tell everybody this stuff because I'm excited about it.
You really do get excited when you start thinking about this community thing. You just light up. It's and actually I must kind of admit, but quietly, that I'm really excited about it too.
Yeah. So the other thing is that I'm doing a year-long program, and the year-long program is not just for people who live locally, but that's for anybody that feels drawn to this kind of thinking, drawn to this work, and really, really wants to kick it up a whole bunch of notches. It's an exclusive group of people that come together for 3 private retreats. So if you don't live locally, you'd need to fly here for the retreats, 3-day retreats, 3 times a year. And the majority of the program is actually done online. So that's easy. It's easy. It doesn't matter where you live. So we do a boot camp, and we do one-to-one coaching, and we do group coaching, and there's other things. But if you're loving what you're hearing on these podcasts or on the blog or wherever else it is that you become familiar with us, contact me and I'll talk to you about this and see if it's a fit for you. It's really not right for everyone. But if you even have a thought about it, then call me up via text or email, and I'll look forward to sharing some things with you that might help you be really clear. So I didn't mean necessarily to go there, but I was so excited about the community thing that I want to encourage people to get around people that are going to support you in staying clear and elevated, because our world is going through a lot right now. And I know that you know that. On this particular day, the stock market dropped 800 points, and they're talking about the possibility of recession and, all these other things. What's important about that is not so much that the stock market dropped by 800 points, but what's important is that that creates an unstable feeling and a fear factor that increases tremendously in mankind in general. And whenever we have a higher fear rate than we have a happy, I feel secure and safe rate, then what happens is the whole world starts to tremble. And we tremble even if we do not think that that affects us. But it does, because we're all very connected. So that's why I'm feeling excited about community, and it's why I'm excited for you to find the support that you desire and need, and then take yourself to a higher level through the year-long program or through many of the products or programs. What's the word I'm looking for? Programs that we have.
So I just wanted to say the thing that excited me and really surprised me the most, frankly, was when we went around the room at this meetup, I would say about over 50% of the people mentioned that coming together with the same group or similar, the same type of group, same kind of people, and this feeling of community was the thing they cherished the most, and that what they attributed to their most significant growth and achievements during the period that they've been coming. Some have been coming for a short time, some for a long time. But it just amazed me that there was such a real sense that the community had such a big part of it. So whether you come here or you come wherever you're at, create a community where you live.
Yeah, and I would say over 50% of the people, not just 50%. It was quite remarkable. There was one other thing I was going to say. Look in the written part here, because I don't know it by heart, but if you would like to be on our list of things that we're doing, then let us know that. Maybe that's the best thing to do, because we have a special email list where people will be we'll let them know about things that are happening. This is primarily locally, but it doesn't necessarily just have to be.
And for sure, subscribe if you're on our blog or you're in one of the other one of the other podcast players. You can subscribe and get on the feed. So there are many ways to stay with us.
Yes. So this subject matter: are you selfish in your relationship? Well,
what does selfish mean?
I'm not answering that. My answer to the question is, I hope so. I hope you're selfish in your relationship. And some people right now are listening going, oh, I'm going to hang up, or I'm going to turn this off. No, don't turn it off. What I want to do is help you better understand selfish. Here's the key. And so I must really be into transparency today, because some of you who have been around me for some time have heard me speak about this story, but I'm going to start this particular subject matter with this, because selfish is a really big key trigger word for me. It used to be a trigger word, because as I was growing up, I came from a really big family. I have 10 brothers and sisters. Not all of them are by blood. 7 are. But we all were in the same house for some of the time. And during that time, when you're with a lot of others, you learn about how to either speak up or get small, or you get into jealousy or comparison and things of that nature. And for me, what I found is that I started looking and taking care of myself. Now, let me assure you, I was really a depressed and shy and introverted person when I was younger and as I was growing up. And to shorten this story, when I was I think I was in my teens, and my mom was irritated at me about something, and she said to me with such vengeance, "You are so selfish." And I was just crushed. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was a really loving, giving person. So much for one perception versus another. But the bottom line is that she said it from a really strong feeling, and it just imprinted on me like crazy. And I felt very guilty. I felt very sad. I felt very depressed. I became even more inward. And it was just kind of an ugly time for me. And I don't even know that she knows what really happened then, but I'll make a little caveat here. Think about your own life right now. Is there a time where somebody said something to you when you were a child, and boom, in 1 nanosecond, you can bring that up and it left such a deep mark in you? Because we usually don't realize that we take things on, especially as children, and it's like a tattoo. It's like a brand on us. We carry it around forever, and it affects everything. So when we speak about selfish, what I'm really, really talking about today is it means that you are in touch with yourself, that you take a moment to know what your own needs are, that you pay attention to what your body is telling you. You pay attention to what your mental needs are, your emotional needs are, your physical needs are, and your spiritual. What are your needs? What is it that you feel is important to you? And one of the things about being in relationship with someone else is they need to do the same thing. And here's the ideal. Do it before you get married. Do it before you get into a long-term committed relationship, because if you're not somewhat on the same page, then you're going to have difficulty. End of subject, you will. Because if somebody says, I want my alone time, some people I know, I just was coaching somebody the other day, and they said, I'm really clear, I want to be in my own bed. I'm totally into sex and all of that, but I'm going to sleep in my own bed, and my partner can sleep in his own bed because I want to have my own time to do what it is that I want to do. I want that individuality. Well, it's a really good thing to get that clear right up front. And when I was having this conversation with a person, I thought to myself, I really, and maybe you want to write this down, Rafael, I think it would be awesome to do a podcast on things to know before you get married or into a committed relationship, because there are like a gazillion things, maybe not that many, but a lot of things that I would invite you to think about. And if you're already in a relationship, well, then we have something else to speak about how you can get with the person that you're with and clean up issues that may be there and you don't even know why they're there.
So would you say, the thing that always gets me with this is, if I have something that I need for myself, do I or do I not take into account the feelings, the needs, and the expectations of my partner?
Yes, you do take that into consideration. And in doing so, you come up against, well, first of all, the very first thing that's really critical is that you communicate what is important to you. You always stay in the I. And when you do that, you can tell the person that I am desiring, and I feel like I'm needing whatever that is. To me, let's give them an example. So Rafael and I have known each other for 20 years, and we've been.
I hate when she says that.
We've been married for 14, and there's just some things that are really, really important to me. And we've learned how to adjust to that. So one of the things is that I have a thing about desiring to eat before 6 o'clock. He likes to eat whenever, and it's usually late. And I also am into intermittent fasting, which you can look up on the internet. which is basically when you don't eat anything from like 6 at night until like noon the next day. So your body is in a constant state of being able to rejuvenate and heal itself. Because once you start eating food, then your body goes into a whole nother mode. So at any rate, so I like to eat early. He likes to eat late. Well, just because we're in different worlds about that doesn't mean that we can't both have what we want. I eat earlier, he eats later. I eat a different kind of food. I'm pretty much a vegetarian, and he eats other kinds of food. And therefore, we don't really match, but we get along great with that. Well, at least I think we do. At least I do.
Because we both make an effort to include the other person and to include spending time with each other, even if we're not eating and the other person is.
Right. And we might even be in the same room. Sometimes, a lot of times, I'll be eating and he'll just be there with me because he's not hungry yet. And then when he gets hungry, which is usually by the time I'm done, and then he eats and I'm there grooming dogs or doing whatever. So we're still sharing time together because that's important. But we don't have to eat the same food. We don't have to eat at the same time. And we don't have to go to bed at the same time. And we don't have to get up at the same time. In fact, we don't.
Okay, so communication is obviously very important, and so that both people get what it is that they need. But what happens when you're at odds with, when one person wants one thing, the other person wants something else, and they are diametrically opposed? They're just inconsistent, or not. It's not possible to have both at the same time.
Well, give me an example. Stay with us. He's thinking.
Uh-oh. Okay, so I want to go out dancing tonight or any night, and you want to stay home and go to bed early. And that's because you like to go to sleep early. I like to go to sleep later. How do we reconcile that without being... I never, in all the time we're together, I've never thought I'm going to go out and be by myself and, do all those things. I'm just not going to do it if you don't want to come with me. But I'm trying to understand where that, where concessions can come in so that we're not considered, quote, selfish.
So do you want to go dancing?
What? Yes. No, I don't. But that you asked for an example.
Okay. Because I want to be sure that we're communicating.
She's looking at me like I'm nuts because I never want to. I do.
I'm the one who would like to go dancing. At any rate, so what happens is that you find a place where you both evaluate on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, how important is this to you? In other words, I'm going to... Well, we can use your example. I have another one in mind as well. So you want to go dancing, and I really don't feel like going dancing. So there's several options. One is on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 meaning I really want to go. And then I get to look at, on a scale of 1 to 5, where do I want to go? Do I want to go? So you go ahead.
Okay, so I'm a 5. I'm just sick of staying home. I want to do something different. I want to get out there.
Okay. And let's just say that I'm a 1. It's like, no, I've been working really a lot. I'm tired and I just don't feel like going out tonight. So what happens then? Is that what you're asking?
That's a good start.
Okay. So what occurs is...
Except, and this is not necessarily our thing, but if they're consistent, if it's like we're on 2 different wavelengths, and it's not like just because tonight I'm tired or I'm not tired, that's totally understandable. But if we're just like, she likes go to sleep at 8 o'clock, I like to go to bed at midnight, that's something that's not just a one-off thing. It's a consistent.
Well, it depends on the experience, because I already talked about whether you eat at the same time, whether you go to sleep at the same time. Those things can be worked out with people, even though they're on a different schedule, if you will. And I know there's...
I just use that as an example to say where we're
right.
just where it's just... I love to go dancing. You hate to go dancing, which is opposite, but that's fine.
Okay, so that's something you should know about before you even get together, because, and maybe you did at the beginning, And now maybe you don't want to do that anymore. So what has to happen is you both have to sit down and have a conversation and say, honey, you know that I get up at 4 to go to work in the morning, and going out is not something that works well for me on whatever night it is. And if you get down to the feet are in the sand, you have options. One is that whichever one of you can make a concession, and in that moment say, it's not my very first choice, but you know what? I know this is important to you, so I'm going. I'm just going to go dancing. And then what you, in return, at another time, you may feel like dancing, and then you'd say to me, I know that you're, needing to go to bed or whatever. This is really backwards, you know that. But at any rate, so you would say, why don't you stay home and rest and do what it is that, we'll just watch a movie or whatever. So that's one. Another option is to say, if you really, really want to go dancing, go dancing. Because if you try to hold a partner back from what it is that they are really passionate about, it's never going to work out well. And that sounds easy, but if you have a partner, as an example, that's really jealous or really insecure, that doesn't want their partner going out dancing and drinking on their own, then you have core issues that are going on that are much deeper than going out and dancing. And those are things that have to be worked out at a much deeper level. Usually it takes some coaching and some clarity to really find out, why is it that you want to really go dancing every single night or something like that? Because whenever we're wanting to do something that's out of, I don't even know what the correct word is.
The routine,
okay. Then there's something going on. Either there's a sense of feeling trapped, and there's that sense of freedom. It's always going to be about fear, so you can know that. It's just, what kind of fear are we talking about? I'm afraid because I'm getting older, and now I'm trapped in this relationship, and I can't do anything, and I can't be with other people, and whatever it is that goes through the mind. So there's things that need to be explored inside of ourselves. So you all who are listening can, if you've got one of these kinds of things going on, go inside and see what's really underneath your quote unquote need to do something that's out of character of who it is that you used to be. It doesn't mean that you can't have a personality shift and now you just want to do that, but there's always reason behind everything we do. There are no accidents, and nothing happens by happenstance. Therefore, it takes introspection. It takes open, clean, safe, impeccable communication to where it is that each person is at. And if it's turning into, pardon my expression here, everyone, if it turns into a pissing contest, then you really know that it's not about what it appears to be about.
Because?
One person, for one thing, is...
I was hoping you were going to say we're never angry because of the reason
that we think. We're never angry for the reason that we think. That is true. And what I was going to say
I've heard that a lot of times, everybody.
because what we have is something else that is going on, no pun intended, underneath the covers. And therefore, there's something that's not being spoken, and little things get built up little by little by little until pretty soon that one brick in the wall becomes a 1,700-foot wall. And then somebody comes to me, and it's a really challenging experience to undo that. So everything needs to be at the get-go. Everything needs, or as soon as you become aware of it.
Okay. That's fine, and some people are in relationships they don't know and all that. But I want to get back to what you said at the very beginning when I said, "What does selfish mean?" And you said, "I want to say, I hope you are." So would you clarify that statement? And,
yes.
And because I think that really goes, and I think this whole concept of selfish ties into love of self. So could you address that?
Yes. Most of the time, people think of selfish as probably something right next to narcissistic, meaning that they only are all about themselves and nothing and nobody else matters. And that is not necessarily the truth. In fact, it isn't the truth. So selfish means that you are aware, you are conscious, and you are sensitive and compassionate to who you are and what you need. You are also open, sensitive, and compassionate for what other people need, your partner, since that's what we're talking about right now. So that means that you really have to determine, because this is a tricky one, so be careful. This is one of the ways that the ego works, is it's not really that you want what you say that you want, but you just want to be in control. Or you just are feeling on a very deep subconscious level a little bit irritated at that person. Maybe they made a comment that was a little bit on the south side and it hurt. Although you didn't respond, they didn't even know that they said it, perhaps, not on a conscious level, but those little sarcastic remarks, they're like barbs. They're like knives and they're like swords, depending upon how sensitive you are and the degree of energy that came with it. So based on that, you may have gotten a few barbs. Maybe you've gotten many. Maybe you've gotten a few knives or even a few swords, and yet you don't come back or talk about it or get support with it. What happens is that you end up shoving it down, and then the ego is so clever, it looks for ways to get back at the person. So let's just use the
We're really talking about passive aggressive here.
Yeah,
right?
It is passive aggressive. It's very passive aggressive. And sometimes people don't even know that that's passive aggressive. Like most people don't know that sarcasm is passive aggressive. Most people don't realize that most, not all, but most jokes are passive aggressive. When you're telling, you say, "Oh my God, you're wearing that shirt again?" And that's a passive aggressive statement. And then the person goes, "Wow, what's wrong?" And you go, "Oh, I was just kidding. You know, that's a shirt you always wear." And nah, that was not true. That was a passive aggressive statement, regardless of what you personally think. But let's not get too far.
So
off
you're
the
saying
reservation.
you're basically saying that we do these passive aggressive, just to use a term, we use these passive aggressive things and we call that being selfish? Or we classify it as being selfish?
Well, no. What I'm saying is that if we feel hurt, injured, wounded, angry, upset, or whatever, let's say we're going to go back to the dancing example. You want to go dancing, but it's not really that I'm so tired. It's that I don't want to give you what you want.
Now the truth comes out.
You know, my dancing shoes are waiting to go out, but I'm not giving that to you, Buster. And I might not even know that. Instead, it's, I've had a long day, I'm really tired. And that may be true, but you always want to be looking for that innuendic, that subconscious, that very lethal, stealthy-like experience that comes out. Because if you're not aware that that's occurring, then this is why relationships go down the tubes so quickly, because of this passive aggressive, because people want to get back at each other. They're in control. They're vying for control. And all these things create us feeling really not good on levels that we don't even have an awareness about. So when it comes to being selfish, when I'm talking about selfish, I'm talking about knowing yourself. I'm talking about knowing what it is that you need to make sure that you are taking care of all of your personal needs and speaking the truth about that. And that means what you said earlier. It's about love of self. It's about loving self. And if you are in a place where you are running a program that says, "Oh, that's selfish of me to ask for help. That's selfish of me to ask somebody to do something different than what they're doing," or whatever number we run in our head. Well, that then is our fear, and our fear is then going to keep us being, we think it's noble because we're not selfish, but that's a bunch of baloney. It is not. Do they still sell baloney?
I don't know. I heard somebody talking about bologna sandwiches in my Toastmasters group, so
Really?
they must, yeah.
Oh my gosh. gosh. Okay. So anyway, the bottom line is that selfish means love of self. Selfish means being aware of what it is that's important to your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies. And it also means that you honor and respect that to the highest level you can. The other piece of that means that you pay attention to, is it really something that's important, or are you getting out the little barb or the little knife or the passive aggressive
And
unit?
this point, I think, is something I've never really considered when thinking about it. And it really just strikes home for me that the idea of we need to be aware to see when it's really about us or it's really about getting back at the other guy.
It is really important. So some people think that if they just wait on their partner hand and foot, they do not ever give any kind of response that seems adverse or conflicting towards the other person. They agree with everything. They go everywhere. They do everything. Rarely is that person who is so passive happy, because they're shoving themselves down. And what that means is their need to be loved and accepted and have the illusion of being safe. They are doing whatever they know how to do to try to get that experience in the relationship. But that is not love, my friends. Has nothing to do with love. It's totally related to fear. And what happens is the other person gets that and will, whether you realize it or not, most of the time will then start not liking you, even resenting you, because what's happening is you are mirroring to them a state of weakness. And most people are not okay with a feeling of weakness. Therefore, if everything is so passive and so, well, I'm okay, yeah, it just drives most people really crazy, except for those that are really desiring to be in control and own and that's another whole story. But in general, if you're one of those people that like strength and whatever, and your partner is just saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, then what occurs is almost always there's going to be a big rift that comes between, because you lose respect for somebody that has lost themselves. They have no backbone. They have no opinion. They have no clarity because they have lost themselves. And this happens so often in relationship. So most of my coaching is done with one of the people has lost themselves in the relationship because it's too scary to stand up and be what today we would call selfish. But I'm saying true to yourself.
Right. And I was just wanted to comment that the whole thing about being passive and taking that on is really you stuffing down your own authenticity. And the example that you were talking about where someone just does things for the other person, notwithstanding and not looking at or taking care of their own needs, their authenticity of what they need gets stuffed away, and pretty soon that'll cause anger and resentment.
Absolutely. So it turns out really unfun for both people. When a person is not taking care of themselves, then they will frequently activate the other person, and they themselves feel so unworthy that they start beating themselves up, and their inner critic voice gets intense, and they're angry and resentful at the other person for not saying to them, oh no, let's do it your way. They want them to step up and save them. They want them to say, oh, let's just do it your way. Most people will just say, okay, then we'll go where I'm going. Well, or then there's the others that I see a lot is, where do you want to go to dinner? I don't care. Well, where do you want to go?
Good thing
I
we've
don't
never
care.
had that conversation.
No, we've never had that conversation. Any kind of decision that comes between two people can go into that. And this is where you have to, for me, you don't have to anything, but what I have found to be really helpful is, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want Mexican food? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want sushi or whatever the case may be. And so you just have to kind of weigh that out. And this also happens a lot, at least in our relationship. And that is,
Stop telling all the secrets.
He'll say, well, where do you want to go? And I'll go, oh, let's go to Margarita Factory. And he'll go, well, I don't really feel like having, oh, no. And I'll say, well, I don't really care. And I'll say, where do you want to go? I don't care. Just make a decision. Where do you want to go? And I'll say, oh, I'd like to go to Margarita Factory. And he'll go, well, I don't want Mexican food. It's like, I'm going to strangle this person. It's like, I want to throttle him because he said he didn't really care. But then he comes back and says something adverse to what it is that I said. You'll run into that probably in your relationship if you haven't already. Also,
that should be the least of the problems in a relationship.
Hey, a lot of littles make a big. And that's really an important statement. A lot of littles make a big. And that means that one little thing comes up, no big deal. Comes up a second time with something else, I'm okay. Third time, well, this is a little bit, yucky. And fourth time, and then pretty soon, a whole bunch of stuff goes on. So it is important to stay awake. I know in every podcast, I'm sure I say it, stay awake. Be aware. Be in self-awareness at such a high level that you know what you're doing, thinking, saying, feeling, experiencing. Because some people call that selfish, and I call that, as I said, self-love. And the question is, what happens when you are taking care of you? What do you think happens? This is a test question.
When you're taking care of yourself.
When I'm taking care of, myself and you're taking care of yourself, what happens in you?
That's going to increase my self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to increase my groundedness, my love of self, that I'm important enough to do something that I need to do.
Yes. In other words, you are increasing your sense of self-worth. And when you feel good about yourself, would it be fair to say that you feel happy?
For sure. And then I'm going to be happy with my partner and give exactly. That's great. That is awesome. That
is the key. When you're happy, your partner has a much higher likelihood of being happy, because things will slide by you that really don't mean a darn thing anyway. But on a day that you're off your center, it'll probably just irritate you to heck. And you know that you've seen that occur 100 times in your relationship or in your life with anybody or somebody. So when we are really working with such intense focus on ourselves, as I was saying in the meetup last night, we get so filled up, we can't help it. The love just overflows out of us, and we're just loving on people. It doesn't even matter whether they ask for it, whether they want it or anything. It's just a matter, and I know some of you are going, oh no, you don't love it on people that they don't want it. I'm not talking about running up to a stranger and hugging them. I'm talking about just being who you are, which is a really clear, open vessel of good humor, good attitude, high vibration, high frequency. You smile. You help people see that life is worth living, because right now, a lot of people, they don't really feel like life is worth living. And you can make a difference in their world.
That's awesome. And today we are instituting a new section.
Really?
Which I was just going to say is going to be a surprise to Esateys, because I just thought it up in our last conversation. I was so empowered and just so many things came clear that I wanted to do this. So this is going to be called our takeaway section. So what I'm going to ask you, I'll do, and then I'd like Esateys to do, and then I'll ask each of the listeners to jot down what their takeaway was from today's show. Because that way it's kind of like a summary, and it's a where and how did it affect you. So takeaways are really important.
I agree with you. Takeaways are very important. Whenever I do a coaching session with someone, I ask them what their takeaways are at the end of the call. And it's very important because you can go back and review them. So what are your takeaways?
And we do this in all of our retreats now. We have we make people put their stuff down in a journal type thing so that they have a record of what they've taken away. So my takeaway for today is that the idea of being selfish and determining whether I'm doing something for myself or to get back at someone is a matter of awareness. So it's the awareness of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this really to me? That's my takeaway.
Okay. So one of the things that I feel is important as a takeaway for all of you listening and whatever is that you understand that when you are caring for yourself, you are increasing your own happiness quotient. Your self-love quotient increases. All of that becomes more profound in your life and in your experience of life. And when that occurs, it overflows to other people. So what the bottom line here is there's no way you can be selfish because it's not like you're only thinking of yourself. What you're really doing is filling up your own coffer, if you will, to the point with that it overflows onto other people. And when that is your intention and that's what you recognize is happening, then taking care of your own needs is very, very important. And I will reiterate that communication is really critical in regard to you speaking what's important to you, and you have the other person do the same and come to resolution where you both feel like you have been heard. People just want to be heard. And you can look inside and see if that isn't true. Sometimes we don't even want to change. We don't want something to be different. We just want to know that somebody cares, that we have feelings, and that there's something that's important to us.
Cool. So I now ask you, just take a moment and write down your own takeaway. Maybe start a little journal so you have this. And we hope you're listening to these shows regularly. And pretty soon you'll get some really important points that you'll be able to work with.
And here's a really, really important thing, because
Really?
everybody, we're talking really,
Okay.
is that your takeaway may not be the same as somebody else's. So please write it in the comment section.
Oh, awesome idea.
Because when you write your takeaway, somebody else is going to write whatever they got. And when you start reading them, then it's going to expand the things. See, we'll remember the thing that just touched us the most in that moment. But there's like so many other things that you really got out of this, that if each of you are willing to write down your takeaways, what will occur is that you will support yourself and others and seeing things from a bigger viewpoint, which you all know I'm a high fan of. So that is what I would highly recommend. And if you can think of any other ideas about that, then let us know, because I think this is a great section, Rafael.
It was an inspiration.
I am so glad, because inspiration is much more powerful than desperation.
That's another takeaway point, by the way. We'll do that in another show.
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly, because we are going a little long tonight. Last week's show, as you guys will remember, is what to do with feelings that you're afraid to express. So Susan from Rhode Island wrote in, I'm feeling so bottled up with feelings that are just terrifying to express. For one thing, I am afraid my partner will just throw up his hands and leave. So I guess I'm really afraid that afraid of the relationship ending. But is that really true?
That's what she said. Is that really true?
Uh-huh.
Okay. First of all, when you have those very strong fears, then you know right away that you have given your energy away to the other person. Whenever you feel terrified that they're going to leave, it activates an abandonment issue, which we all have in varying degrees. And that fear of being alone or the unknown is one of the biggest core issues that humans have. And it is created and driven by fear, and it will always come out with that kind of feeling wrapped around it. That's important for you to realize. So is it really true? Not necessarily. One way you can start to open this up is you can say to your partner, hey, Russ, or whatever his name is, I have something that I really want to talk about, but I just noticed that I'm really frightened about it. And then you can continue with, if I share what it is that I'm about to share, would you be willing to just let me speak before you say anything? So first of all, that helps set the groundwork for the first half of the sentence comes out and all of a sudden they're all over you. And another thing is, if that's too terrifying, you need to get somebody as, for lack of a better term, a mediator. Get a coach, call me, go somewhere and get somebody, because it's really obvious that there's some things going on in the relationship that are not ideal, because you're living in a real state of fear about that. And that's important to recognize, because your relationship will not grow productively if you're living in a lot of fear. The other thing that you can do is that you can consider writing an email or literally a handwritten letter that will help you get your feelings out. Sometimes just writing it down will help it dissolve itself away. Sometimes you don't really even need to say anything to another person, because remember that whatever we have going on is coming from you, whom I'm speaking to, but it's really true for everybody. It comes from our own personal perception. So your personal perceptions are that it's not safe to communicate. It's not safe to be who you are. It's not safe to really be open and free in the relationship with all the different parts of yourself. Therefore, you're living in fear, insecurity, you feel suppressed, and on one level or another, you're going to be feeling trapped inside an experience where you'll find, because been there, done that, I've done this before, and that is that you'll just start like a beautiful flower that you'll just start to wilt, and you'll get smaller and smaller and smaller until pretty much there's nothing left of you, because all of your energy is, quote unquote, over there, being concerned and worried and terrified about what they're going to think, what they're going to do, how they're going to react, and all those other kinds of things. That is not a happy life. That is not a joyful relationship. That is not a loving relationship. Therefore, I really feel that you can use a couple of these as possibilities. And if you really want some tremendous support to really increase your self-love and your level of empowerment and help you really let go of the fears that are under there, then you can contact me or find a coach for yourself that will help you really undo or unleash so much that's going on. I do recommend that if you write it down once or twice, don't send it. Just write it down and look at it 2 days later and see if it still is hot of a topic inside of you that it was before. So those are some beginning suggestions.
Wow, this brings up a whole bunch of stuff, but we're going to close the show out. But one thing I just wanted to say about that is the thing about writing it down or writing, if you get angry, a couple of weeks ago, I got really triggered at someone and I went to my computer and I wrote an email that was probably not the kindest or the way to get what it was that I was seeking. And instead of sitting on it and not sending it, I hit send. And that is a terrible mistake. It is. You can send it tomorrow. You don't have to send it while you're in the midst of 200% trigger, because that will be non-productive for whatever it is you really are trying to achieve from that.
Because it brings us back to we're never angry for the reason that we think. We get triggered and we just dump it all out. And that's not what's really going on. So write it out and then take a break, take a breath, and come back and see it again. And if you still can't see it, then get some support by somebody who's not in the same level of reaction that you are. But they're clear, they're neutral, and they have the ability to see things from a bigger viewpoint.
Cool. Okay. Wow, this show just went like, I don't know how.
I know.
This is awesome. I just enjoyed being with you and just chatting.
Me too.
It was really cool. Okay, so our question of the day, Esateys.
What if the happier I was, the happier my relationship was? What if the happier I was, the happier my relationship was? And if you just ask that question rhetorically, just allow your mind to go to the possibilities here, then what's really being said underneath is, what if I was self-caring and taking care of what's important to me and being open-hearted and compassionate with others about that? What if that really made the significant, critical, life-changing experience in my partner? And it will.
Very neat. Whew. Okay. Oh, I just had another thought. Just so if anyone really, if keeping the takeaways and even these questions of the week that we give are a value to you, and let's say you missed something in the show or whatever, if you go to esateys.com/podcast, podcast, esateys.com podcast, we have the transcripts of the entire show on that podcast. In addition to the audio, we have a transcript so you can go through that. So it's just another source of reinforcing the things that we're talking about. So it's a resource. I just wanted to make it known to everyone. It's very, very popular, and it's very transformative.
Awesome. Okay. So until we meet again next week.
Was that Roy Rogers who did that?
I think it was. It was one of those Western guys. At any rate, just know that I am you, you are me, we are one, and you are loved. Can't wait to connect next time.
And send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
So take care. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye for now.